live.
Preeti, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I said good evening, everyone, and welcome to another session of ELSAConnect. We're 1.5 years into having these sessions, and from seeing the smiles on everyone's faces, it's obviously a time on Saturday evening when we all like to be here and just meet up people who we otherwise would never meet or see or have lost touch with. So welcome everyone, and I hope you enjoy today's session. Just to give you a brief idea of what ELSAConnect has been doing in the last 1.5 years, we've been bringing the voices, we as in, I speak of the general we, not just a few people, but the ELSAs in Bangalore have been bringing voices of bankers, entrepreneurs, musicians, artists, teachers, and people who work in the social service sector, and a whole lot of a variety of personal journeys all onto this platform and into this space. We've got to share a lot of insights into people's lives. We've shared some of our own insights. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over now to Preeta and Chotti. Chotti Barua needs no introduction. If you lived in Bangalore for even 5 years, you should have known her by now. And so Preeta too. So welcome everyone, and over to you, Preeta.
Thank you.
I have a feeling Preeta's dropped off the meeting. I don't see her on the list. Yeah. Okay.
For a little while, I think. I did see her.
No, she was here. She was very much here. I think she dropped off. Maybe some internet issue. So maybe while we wait, and if there's some of you who are not familiar with what blind love is, Ramani, can I share the video right now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that. I mean, Preeta is having trouble logging in, so she just asked again. Um, so do you want to start, Chotti, rather than
Yes,
wait? Yeah.
I mean, the cat and the blind at the end was to just show you that, blinds can be used more than just window dressings. It could be a plaything for your pet or a exercise mountain climbing thing for your cat. But it was funny today, just today, I had a client who sent me that video about the cat. And he sent it with a caption saying catchy blinds. And I thought that was very sweet. So I sent it to Sandhya to say that you could put it up to show people what all blinds can do. Well, I think actually I needed to share something very interesting. When I looked back, this is our silver jubilee year of Blind Love because we started it in 1996. So actually, it's been 25 years since I started Blind Love. Thank you. I think you're muted, Preeta.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know whether it was lightning that came. It was your lightning, for Blind Love lightning that happened. And then I could not join in because of so many people. I think I was the last person to join in. So I'm sorry. I think the whole thing got delayed for me introducing Chotti, and she to start off. But a quick introduction, a little late, but it's always good to introduce people again. So when Sandhya asked me to do this ELSAConnect with Chotti, I was actually really excited because it's very, very, rare that you meet someone who's in your own field and who's worked for 10 years without, something similar to me, without investors, who's managed on her own, and who, like me, started a journey. It was very similar. In fact, when we connected, it was connections in so many different levels that it was like, my heart just felt happy that I'd done this. So I'm not going to take more of your time. So I think one of the things that Chotti, when we started talking, and where a lot of it just hit me, it hit my heart, and it felt very, similar. And it's a process that both of us have gone through. Is that she started off from a garage, and it's a garage story that became a success story. And Chotti, wanted you to really talk about how, especially nowadays in retail, there's investors, there's so many people, it's so much shusha, and you've managed to remain this quiet, calm, yet for so many years. Take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wish I could say like Amazon and Facebook and Microsoft, I started in a garage. But of course, we've remained small. But I think that's a lot to do with the way I wanted it to be. And I started it, like I said, 25 years ago. And basically, my husband was horrified because out went the family car and everything. And suddenly he had 2 tables and tailors and assistants sort of occupying this space. And luckily, in those days, there was no zoning regulations and things like that. So actually, you could work, you could use your home as a little shop and things like that. There was no problem. And so we started like that. And it was, I love the name Blind Love, but I can't really take much credit for it because it was started by Mr. and Mrs. Mehta in Delhi about, I think, about 35 years ago. And their son is my sister-in-law's husband. So I think when he met me and he came home, I think he felt I would have the sort of aesthetics and sensibilities maybe to start something like that here in Bangalore. So that's how we sort of got it going. And it was lovely in a way because it was in the garage. So, I was there all the working hours. I could be there supervising. It was learning right from the word go, because of course I'd never tried anything like this. And I got a qualified tailor. That's what they sent me from Delhi. And how we went about it is that, I think I had done a few blinds in my home first, and then people came, had a look at it, then they wanted it. And there was no one else doing blinds in Bangalore in those days. Everyone, it was just curtains. And you had Drapes Avenue and a few shops like that. So when you went and bought fabrics for your windows, it was automatic that you would just go and get curtains done. But I think then when we started, and few homes started having it, I think it was all sort of just word of mouth, that people would look, go there, find something new, and then they'd say, oh, who's done it. And of course, Blind Love, because we started just like a small this thing, we had no marketing budget. That's what Preeta and I were saying, that we never had any marketing budget. Actually,
we still don't actually.
we still
So
don't.
it's like, okay, but the good thing is, Chotti, you and I are like the marketing people, just our face. I'm hoping that is what is pulling people in. But the interesting thing that I learned from you is that, which even me as an interior decorator is difficult sometimes to think, is that there is a huge process to making that little blind that goes up into your room, and you just think it's one string and some weed and it goes up, but it's not, right? I believe there's like an 18-step process that correct me if I'm wrong.
Because even I didn't know, I used to think, oh, how difficult can it be? Because it's just a plain piece of fabric, it's straight, and you just put these rods, and it's not so difficult. But then when I started making it, I realized to get that finish, because anything simple, if it's not perfect, it looks really tacky. So we go through about 15 processes before we can say the blind is finished. And it involves a lot of labor, and of course, the whole process starts with, and the first process is the measurements, and the measurements have to be absolutely precise. Because, whereas in curtains, even if you're, wider by 5 inches or anything, there's not so much of a problem. But in a blind, because it has to fit into a specific sort of space, even if it's a 1/4 inch difference in measurement, there's a huge problem. So we start off with the measurements. Then, of course, people come, we discuss styles and things like that. Then fabric selections, and then the stitching process starts. And it's you start off with marking, and then you do the kacha stage, and then you have to do marking again to put the rods, and it goes on like that. So it's a huge process. And then, of course, there's so much of details that has to be added depending on what the order is.
You told me there was one blind where you put a mustache on it.
I think you saw it in the video. This is actually Kalpana Ka's daughter's blind. We did this for Kalpana's daughter many years ago, and she wanted a mustache on one blind, and then she wanted the logo on the other. So, that was a challenge, because we had to get everything just correct, because otherwise it wouldn't be okay. So we did a lot of trial and error, where we, did it on paper first, then stuck it there. Then we found the proportions weren't right and all. And finally we got it right. And I asked Kalpana the other day, are those blinds still doing well? And she said, yes, they're still there. And she sent me that photo. So I have a feeling this must have been, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 years ago or more. And
someone wants to know why a mustache. Do you know the answer for that?
No, I actually don't. We should ask Kalpana why it was quite funny that she wanted a mustache, and in that particular color combination,
So while we're talking about Kalpana and other things, what is it, you must have, like, it's with me, some of my most interesting stories is not only about the houses that you do, but the people that you meet. So customers and clients are like, for us, the biggest thing, you gel with them, and whether the interior decorators are. So are there any interesting stories that you have about?
People? Actually, this happened to me very soon after I had started Blind Love, and I was still operating from the house. And what happened is one gentleman walked in, and he drove his own car, and he walked in, and then he said, look, I need a few blinds for a house which is up in the hills for myself. So can you show me some varieties? So I went through all the things and all. And he was very detailed about everything, the cost and how does it go. He would look at the back of the blind and all sorts of things. And then finally he said, okay, this is the address, your guys will have to go there. And he said, I'm giving you my card, so once the measurements and all are taken, then you get in touch with me and then we'll do the processing. But don't give me very expensive blinds and all that. So I said, okay. And after he left, I looked at the card, and he is one of the most successful businessmen in India. Okay. And a billionaire actually. And that whole process of dealing with him, it was really strange because he, I think, ordered about 3.5 blinds. Okay. And he went into such detail about every blind. He tried to cut me down on the cost. And, he would go into such lengths about, oh, do you think that we should put that extra border? Maybe we could cut the cost if we didn't use the border. And I was saying, my God, please give me some business. And the funniest thing was he was always available on the phone. And it was a new experience for me because my husband, who's in the corporate world, if ever I called him at work, the secretary say he's in a meeting, he'll call you later, and never call me back.
Because that's yours, it's your phone.
Possibly, but I told him.
Try with multiple women calling him and we'll see.
So that was quite a strange experience right from the beginning. But
what Chotti, and I'm going to keep calling you Chotti and not Ramani.
Please do.
So Chotti, what is it that you think? Because I've actually been thinking about this over the last thing, is that how do you sustain yourself and how do you manage yourself in this scenario? I think the pandemic changed a lot of things for me, perspective wise, mentally, even how I look at the store, how the running of it, because we had to do a lot of changes happen. And I think it hit SMEs and people like us a lot more because there were no investors putting in more money. And what were the changes, and how do you think this is it in the long run? Do you think it's better because this entire thing of it's become more personal, but yet business has sort of diluted? What is your take on this?
Well, I think in a funny way, because of people spending a lot more time at home because of the pandemic, I think people then realized their homes was something, they looked at with much more interest. And I think I found that people do want to spruce up their houses and, redo a lot of things. And so in that sense, it's been, I think, a little bit of a boost. And of course, it was very, very challenging because, of course, there were many months when there was no revenue stream coming in. And of course, salaries had to be paid and things like that. But I think I took a decision that, I'm going to see how much I can go forward. And what we did is for the first 2 months, I think I told my staff that, look, I might have to cut the salary by 50%. And actually, they were all really grateful that even that 50% was coming in. And then when orders slowly started picking up, we sort of went up to 70%. And I think the proudest thing I feel is that I didn't lay off a single person. Okay. And I think for a small organization like mine, I think that was quite creditable.
And I think I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you there, because and I'm going to think is that if all the small organizations that have gone have kept their people, is the bigger organizations that have actually laid off.
Yes.
So how did you, your business, your journey with your people that you've kept for so long, you mentioned, has been also a very long journey, right? So I think they're family for you right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think I still have, many of them have been with me from the beginning. They still are there. And, because at the tailor level, at a measurement level, fitter level and all, it's much, their salaries aren't that huge or anything like that. But they've all grown with me. And sometimes I feel I run a charity because I have kept these people with me for so many years. In fact, my accountant used to tell me, Madam, because you have them and, in increments throughout the years and things like that, it might be easier if you get fresh people, because you don't have to start them on these sort of salaries and all. But I think loyalty was very, very important to me. So we've kept it so my margins are not at all great, but I think I feel a pride that all these people are still with me. And on a personal level, I think I, look after their school fees and college fees, and I do a lot for them. So I feel in a way I'm not a sort of real businesswoman in that sense, because I think if you keep these sort of compartments very separate, but in my case, I think I feel that I need to have these people, and whatever it is, I'll try and keep it going. So
Yeah.
I think the proof of the pudding is that they are still with me.
Yeah, and
My- yeah, and my girls who work with me are from quite humble backgrounds, and they've also been with me for a long time. And it's amazing, because if you go there, they will be telling you, Madam, do you want a luxurious look? Then you can go in for this. Or do you want a modern look? And, and they'll take you through the styles, and they can design a whole home quite adequately for you, and that's I think a wonderful thing. I did try some high funda type of people to work with me, and but I found that uh, it sort of after a little while, then I think they get restless, and then they want to move on, or maybe branch out on their own in different type of design things. So these girls, I think they value the job very much. So they put a lot more heart and soul into it. And I'm really happy with them.
So the question here is that why? I mean, there's someone who's saying that they love the background. Why would you ask someone? And of course, I would have a different reason as an interior decorator. But as in, there's so many people here. Why would you ask them that to customize a blind? I mean, what is the thing in terms of customization? There's so many blinds which are available all over in terms of multiple white blues. What is the thing about you wherein lies the difference, so that people have come and stayed with you for so many years, other than the mustaches and the pussycats and the little things that you have added on? Why do you think that blinds are way better also as a window dressing than curtains? Horrible curtains.
I mean, as far as I think blinds go for window dressings, is that, in modern flats and in a lot of places where space also is a constraint, whereas a curtain is very voluminous. Okay, so it takes up much more area. Whereas a blind, if you have an inset window, or even if it's a large window, it just fits very neatly into that space. And so you can have pieces of furniture underneath it or whatever, whereas with a curtain it sort of can billow out and things like that. And I think blind, you can do much more customization to it.
Yeah. Curtain is just a fabric.
Yeah.
There's something it's not about your blinds, but you have two very interesting and very famous sister-in-laws. I think I got from the story. They're both very famous in their own, and they both actually, talented and in not the most usual streams. You want to talk about them? How does it feel like being part of this, having such famous sister-in-laws? And they're very famous, and people may not know who they are.
Of course, I think everyone knows Usha.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's just amazing, and she's so talented, and she's I've known her since I think I was 17 years old. And the nice thing both of us say is that we don't think of each other as sister-in-laws, we are more friends. And so it's been a wonderful journey. Of course, I just love to ride on their fame. It's lovely. And Pranab's sisters, my God, I've got 3 sister-in-laws from his side. And each one is also, highly, highly accomplished. One is a professor in Guwahati. She's retired, but she's a amazing personality, because she's still doing a lot of amazing work in Assam. The other one is has started a one company years ago. Actually, she called it Ranika after my daughter, and she sort of supplies handbags to accessorize and to lots of very, very high profile branded companies abroad. And the other sister-in-law is into wellness and all that, and each one highly successful. So, I mean, and they are all, I am in awe of all of them.
So a whole lot of this is the thing that I was going to say is that it's really good to have so many powerful and happy, women in your family and all sisters-in-law.
Yeah, very, very powerful women, each one of them, and they take control of their lives. And it's lovely to see that, because they, I think, all quite trailblazers in whatever field they've.
They are. I mean, many of them may not know that Chotti and I, other than the retail part of it, we also have a very strong connect to Assam. I'm sure some people do, but other than marrying an Assamese, you also have a lot of connections to Assam, don't you, Chotti?
Yeah, well, I was born in Assam, so I think I was probably destined to marry an Assamese. And we actually lived there after we got married. And I think we were there for just about a year, And my brothers, of course, went to school in St. Edmunds. And there's such a lot of connections to Assam, from my family also. And being a sort of a Keralite, and having connections to Shillong and things like that, it is very, very special to me that I've married an Assamese as well.
So do you think that you've sort of amalgamated both of these, like, got the Assamese and the Kerala part of it, and that shows in your blinds? Because, I mean, in terms of aesthetics, does it really...
I don't think I can say that. Though, of course, we use a lot of chatai, which is woven in Assam. And
Kerala?
No, actually, the chatai isn't woven in... It isn't woven in Kerala. There is another type of mat, which is in Tamil Nadu and maybe some places in Kerala. But the chatai is basically from the Northeast. And actually, when we first started Blind Love, the type of chatai rolls that we used to get was just outstanding, because we still have blinds that people have ordered from those days, 25 years ago, which are still going strong, because it was so beautifully done. Nowadays, of course, a lot of people don't want to go into that field of weaving and things like that. So the weavers are not as skilled.
So maybe
so the chatai is not as finely woven as it used to be.
So other than your love for chatais and your beautiful design, you can all see, I think what I discovered is that Chotti is a good cook and she's a nutritionist. And I'm waiting, and that's all this so that I get called over for like dinner or lunch.
Kerala meal, you can come anytime.
Kerala. But you are fond of healthy cooking, and that's your love, right? That you've done a whole thing on nutrition and
no, I'm deeply interested in nutrition. But actually, it's a funny story, because in LSR, if you all remember, in the canteen, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have those bread pakoras with paneer and podina chutney, deep fried.
Bread pakoras.
Yes, and I used to love it. But I used to always feel guilty about eating it. So then I started it then that I would take a lot of the paper napkins, much to the guys, disgust, and I would squish the pakoras out of shape till I could get all the oil out. And then I would happily eat a couple, thinking, okay, it's calorie free. And so that was a vivid memory of the LSR canteen. But I found that I think, especially after my kids were born, I wanted to give them, much more healthy food. So my son never realized it, but I would put palak into the tomato base of the pizzas. And, he didn't have a clue that you don't have green pizzas and things like that. So he'd happily chomp it till some friends of his said, "What is wrong with you? Why are you having these pizzas?" So he said, "What's wrong?" He said, "No, you can't have this. It's red." So after that day, he stopped having healthy pizzas. But I found that I became very color conscious as far as food was concerned. I didn't want anything white in the house. So right from about 40 years ago, I would bake all their cakes and anything, even white sauce, cheese sauces were always made with atta, and no white maida or, processed food as much as I could help it ever entered our home. And it's still like that today. And I mean, anything to do with nutrition, I'm really very, very fond of.
Actually also mentioned that if when you were in school, or I think college, you actually wanted to get into hotel management, and
Yes.
yes, correct. Yeah, I think somewhere along the thing. So, and you didn't
But
go
in
for it.
those days, of course, hotel management was not a degree. I think it was only a diploma. And my father said, "Nothing doing, you have to get a degree. Finish your degree. And after that, if you want, then you can go in for that." So what happened is, while I was in college, I met Pranab. And after that, I think I dropped every idea of going and doing any more studies. I just wanted to get married. So that was the end of my hotel management career.
Well, you continued at home, and there's still time. There are people like us so ready to have all kinds of healthy food. So Chotti, what really got me into your story was your journey, in the sense of like how you've developed Blind Love, in terms of keeping it personal, keeping it small, and just going word it was just word of mouth that you which is again something that I was trying to do, but you're like way ahead of me in terms of word so where how tough is it? How tough was the entire process, being a mother, being in Bangalore? Because we don't, as you said much earlier, that we don't have the money to advertise. So it becomes like,
No,
a
I think
circle.
what I wanted to do when I started the business, definitely for me, was that, I wanted to have commitments made, because, I always felt so irritated if you've ordered something and then you're waiting and someone tells you, okay, you'll get it in 10 days, and then 10 days later you follow up and it doesn't come and things like that. So I was very clear that when I started this business, that and it's interesting, because when I started it, because at that time we had a lot of delay in getting things ready. So sometimes we would actually tell customers that their blinds would take 8 to 10 weeks, and they would say, "What's wrong with you? We can't wait that long," and things like that. And I would tell them, "Look, I could easily tell you 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and every time you come back to me, I'll say, okay, 1 week more, 1 week more. So I'm telling you right now, it's going to be 8 to 10 weeks." And then slowly I managed to make people understand that a delivery commitment is fine, as long as at the end of 8 to 10 weeks it is going to come. And the other thing that we had in our uh, favor was that no one else was doing blinds. So we had a monopoly for 8 years, which I can tell you was just wonderful. It's having a monopoly in anything was great. And we did have that because nobody else actually started it. But I think because in those 8 years, blinds really caught on. And the way we sort of advertised was, I don't know if any of you remember, there used to be a little small magazine that used to come out called Bangalore This Fortnight. And they had a list of all the things that were happening and things and shops. So I remember we would have a little advertisement, and it cost us 6,000 rupees a year, which we could just about barely manage. But with that and word of mouth, we sort of grew. And I think sort of strict this thing about quality and finish and the styles we offered, I think then Blind Love sort of became a well-known name. And it was quite funny. Once I went to the market a couple of years ago, and I was just looking at a few things that I needed to buy from a store, where they supply rods and things like that, a really tiny, pokey little store. And so then I was telling him, okay, I need this. And he said, what is the bill name? So I said, Blind Love. He said, अरे मैडम हम लोग बहुत पहचानता है ये कंपनी, आपका कंपनी फेमस है. And I was thinking, oh my God, if he says he knows Blind Love, then I'm really, really happy, you know. So that was a nice endorsement. And what was the other question you asked?
No, I was like, basically, it was saying in the journey of like, being a single woman entrepreneur, like you started, I think, 10 years back, and it's still hard. So how was it then? And with no help in terms of whether, which is what you managed to say, it is word of mouth. But how did you manage to combine being an entrepreneur's mother, everything 10 years back? Because it's not, it was
25 years.
I'm so sorry, 25 years back.
Yes.
See? Because especially something like retail, it's not easy. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. I mean, it's corporate world, yes. But, what got you, what is it?
I think it was a clear vision that whatever I had to, whatever product that I was making had to be, fantastic quality. And I think that drove me to sort of always, strive for that. And it was, and so many times you get into so much of problems, things don't come when you need it, and you're struggling with raw materials, this, that, and all. But at the end of the day, I think that commitment, and of course, even if it meant, you're just about scraping through with cash flows and things like that. I just wanted to make sure that no customer of mine would ever suffer as much as, I could help it. And I think that was a big driving force, because I've told the girls, I said, look, once a customer comes to our shop and we have taken on their order, there's no way that we can't deliver what we've promised them, because they've given us their hard-earned money, and we have to be very focused on giving them what they want. And I think with that focus, um, it was the driving force. And of course, trying to balance, home life and your work life. I think everyone finds it a challenge. And the hours, sometimes, you have to work really long hours. And you have to sort of find a way that you organize your life in such a way that you've got to be, you got to make sure the home runs very, very smoothly. And
Yeah, well, the thing is that because I keep having fights with my husband, because he's also an entrepreneur and he's in a business, but I keep saying you're dealing with educated people and I'm dealing with carpenters. So does that, so it's a different ball game all the time when you're dealing with tailors and because a lot of it. So does that hamper any of your is it a lot more difficult for you, or do you enjoy that process? Did you learn from them?
Well, it's a frustrating process, because the thing with dealing with at this level is you feel okay, you've told them everything, and then the next order will be easier. And then you find that you have to start from A again. It's not as if they can just pick off like that. Every blind has to be explained very carefully and things like that. So I think there are challenges when you have to deal with this tailors and in that sort of a level.
But it's fun.
Yeah, but at the same time, the pride we feel when we've done a good product is always really nice. So it is, of course, challenging and frustrating and things like that, because so many times given them all the instructions, and then I'd go back and inspect it, and there would be glaring mistakes. So then you'd feel, oh, I would really like to strangle them at that time. And then you have to keep patient and then explain nicely, and then hopefully it works out.
So it's been like a pleasure. I mean, see, the things that, Chotti and me connected on so many things, from including her knowing my parents, which was quite a surprise. So there is so much I can talk about, but we have obviously some time limits.
But
So,
I have to share one story. You know, this was in 2008. That was a time when everything was just sort of booming, actually, just before the crash. Everything was booming and things like that. And everyone said, oh, you should be in this location, that location, and all. And that was the only time my husband and son decided, okay, maybe she needs a little bit of help. And they said, okay. So they picked Lavelle Road, okay? And we expanded and we had our second store in Lavelle Road. And so very high rents, but it was a beautiful store, very high rents and all that. And then, of course, the financial crisis happened. So for about a year or two, we were just bleeding, really bleeding, and I couldn't understand. And here's my husband, who's supposed to be a marketing genius and things like that. And a well-educated son. And then suddenly I told them one day, listen, I think I got to sack both of you from my business and it's not working. And I said, I'm going to just keep running it the way I want to run it. And I think that was one of the best decisions I did.
always leave it to the women to make the sensible decisions.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I just wanted, before I ask people to ask more questions and open up the floor, we'll run through the video again, Chotti, if that's okay. And do you want to talk
But-
about clients when you?
Yes, I would like to sort of tell people
Yeah.
that, when they're looking at window dressings and things for their home, at least this is my view. I always tell my clients when they come home, I said, keep your window dressings neutral and simple, because that makes it much easier for you to do a lot of other things in the room. You can get your drama with your carpets, your cushions, or you can add the color in those sort of aspects. But I would always recommend them to just go for neutral colors. And if at all anyone likes natural fiber blinds, I would also advise them never to have those lined, because the beauty of these natural fibers is that when you put the blind down, the way it filters the light, and you can look out, nobody can look in, and it gives a wonderful warmth to the room. And another thing I also feel is that you don't have to go in for expensive fabric or anything like that. You can there used to be a beautiful silk called matka silk, which was all in the range of 2000 and things like that. And then, even though I love dealing with natural silks and cottons and natural fibers, then I discovered that, actually they don't last very long. They fade very fast. And we used to do a lot of silk organza blinds. They look beautiful, but in a year it started fraying. So then all, D-Deco and a lot of these companies came into being, where there was a lot of polyester blended fabric. And I can't tell you, price wise also, it's so reasonable. And they came out with a Matka 100% polyester fabric, which was in the range of around 400 or something. It is beautiful. And, so I try to tell people that you don't have to spend a lot of money on expensive fabrics to get a very nice look. You can use very simple fabrics, and I actually now tell them that we have polyester linen looking fabrics, which are wonderful because they'll just last. They're very hardy and they last a long time. And even simple Cora, which is just 100 rupees a meter, you can make beautiful blinds with it. So I would, even though it's probably not a good business strategy, but I feel natural fibers should never be lined, and we can give a separate blind at the back for that. But expensive fabrics and things like that, you don't really have to go into to get even a very luxurious look.
So let's just play. Sandhya, shall we just play the video again, and you can just explain, run
The first one, which is the curtain one, everyone would have known about this lovely smock dresses that girls wore. And actually the top of the curtain is full smocking done. And on the right side, you see a sheer blind with the same material. So it's a lovely contrast with the intricate work. This is a very luxurious home we did. And this is just a little style detail in the blind. And this is another smocked one with a lot more detail in it. And this is just what I call a day blind. And this would be the night blind which comes down at night. This is using a lot of ethnic fabrics, kalamkaris and printed fabrics with a lot. There's a chatai, there's a banana fiber. This one was very challenging because this was 25 feet high blinds, and these are all banana fiber, and these were motorized. And it was really a difficult job to get this done. But I really loved it because all the borders that you see horizontally, I actually designed this blind myself. And I worked with a very well-known interior designer. And she loved the borders that I gave. And it's quite an very interesting house, this one. And 25 feet blinds are very difficult. In this blind, we did a lot of different elements with borders. You can't see it in detail, but there are about, I think, 5-6 fabrics that we've used on this blind. There was a lot of detail in this. And if you see, even where we put the rods, we're very careful about it. And this was a cutwork blind. And this was for a very, very elaborate home. But it was in the first time we were doing those blinds. The sheer blind at the back is the day blind. This was done in London for a London place. And all the blinds you see here is actually banana fiber with borders. And we have a sheer blind at the back of it. You can see that it gives a very neat look. You can have a long blind for the doors and a shorter blind for the windows. These are also natural banana without lining. This is another very elaborate home. And here's the famous mustache blind. This is a natural banana fiber.
And a natural cat climber.
Yes. He's even trying to play with the bell. Next thing, he might even be able to pull up the blind. Who knows?
It's been fascinating. Thank you, Chotti.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you. I think there were some questions that come on Sandhya, and I somewhat missed if there were any questions. If there's anyone, shall we? I think I can see one, which is that how do you get them clean, vacuumed, or dry cleaned?
Yeah, so actually nowadays it's become that much easier because nowadays there's these steam vacuum cleaners that you can buy. And it's really brilliant because you can clean it very efficiently at home. But surprisingly, you can even hand wash blinds. I have actually hand washed my sheer white blinds, my banana fiber, natural fiber blinds with a little bit of soap and water and a brush. But the only thing that I would advise is that it's got to be a really sunny, hot day, so that if you wash it, then it gets dried that day itself, And of course, we have started providing cleaning service, steam vacuum services also. we do it. But actually, it's not so bad, because even if you just sort of dust it maybe once in 2 weeks, the front and the back of the blind, with just a duster or a light brush, it doesn't get too dirty at all.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, there's a whole lot of. Does anybody have any questions to ask? Is Chotti there?
Yes, I'm here. Oh, somebody wanted to know what is the background here. Yeah, so this was actually, these are these cement panels. I had seen it in some shop in Bombay, and I had really loved it. But of course, I couldn't afford the Bombay prices. But luckily, I had a friend of mine who actually custom made it for me. And we just made a whole lot of, I have about 16 of these panels on the wall at the back.
It's beautiful. So I think any more questions? Everyone's like silent, awestruck by like blinds and what you do, and the whole thing of just managing so well. And I think
I don't know about managing so well, but we chugged along.
For me, I know because but the thing is that it's just because, I mean, the first place that I came when I came to Bombay, and sorry, from Bombay to Bangalore, and the first thing was like everyone knew about Blind Love. You know, when I asked for, unfortunately, I had 20 feet ceiling, so I didn't think you would do the 20 feet blinds. But now that I saw your video, I think yes, maybe next time I'll get it done. But no, it was such an interesting talking to you. I mean, it's been amazing. I was really upset if the whole thing got delayed and pushed because of your husband's. My husband has been a big thing, I know, throughout your journey, right? I forgot to talk about.
I've really had a wonderfully supportive husband. It was, I mean, he's backed me up in every which way as far as the business goes and things like that. I think without that, it would have been very difficult. But, you know, when he was posted in Bombay, I sort of stayed on in Bangalore because I said, you know, he'll be at work the whole day, and what'll I do? So I might as well stay here and, you know, work. And he completely backed me up with that, and very, very supportive. And my son, I must say, is actually, you know, he's a born artist, and I can't tell you, while he did work with us in Blind Love for a few years, he came up with such interesting designs that even till today people want those designs. You know, it very, very creative, and people still remember the times when he worked with me. But most of the times I would recommend mother and sons don't work together. But and my daughter, of course, it was lovely because she started Blind Love in London, and I think she did a great job for 3 years while she was there. She is also from LSR. She finished in 2001. And I think till today, people come to our home and say, you know, we want blinds. And unfortunately, because of the kids and all that, and then they left London, she closed down the business. But I think people still ask her whether she'd start again. So I don't know.
Yeah, she's somewhere here, we can ask her. But it was a pleasure really having you, and I thoroughly enjoyed this entire thing. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for my Kerala Assamese meal combination.
No, anytime. Anytime.
People can also get invited.
I think there's a question from Vandana.
Yeah, the 2 questions.
Sorry, I can't. Can someone?
Vandana, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was
Hi,
on the road.
Vandana.
Hi, lovely. It was really, really interesting to hear this journey, Chotti. My question is that, you know, blinds are mounted. So, you know, it leaves a gap in my experience, you know, from the window. You know, how do you handle the light, even if you've taken it like a few inches out of the frame? How do you manage that light which comes in from the sides?
Yeah, actually, that is, it does happen. And, the thing is that if we try and go wider than the window, because if there's a wall behind it, and because of the mounting, there will be a little element of light coming from the sides. So that is a challenge sometimes that, we can't do too much about. And if we put it inset, then sometimes, if there's a recess about 4 or 5 inches, and then the blind can be fitted right at the back, then that does get minimized a bit. Or
But then, oh, yeah,
pulling it.
not only, then rolling it up can sort of, in your experience, what do you suggest? Is it better to have it like an inset?
I actually do like it inset, because I think the way it sort of frames the window is, and I think that itself gives a style element to the room, just having it recessed. And so I think that could sort of solve the little bit of light might come. But of course, people who are very light sensitive and things like that, then they have to be very particular about whether they want that to have a blind, or whether they prefer curtains where we can go much wider and higher, so no light comes in from anywhere.
Okay, thanks.
There's just one more question which says, do you deliver outside Bangalore?
Oh yes, actually it's interesting. I've got I've done in India. We've been we go to Bombay, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kerala. We've done in Assam. We've done in Calcutta. We've done lots of places, and abroad we've even had our blinds in Brazil, of course, America, England, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Israel. We've done a lot of blinds outside the country also. And I think what they find is we just do this normal manual pulley, and it's a very easy system. So people find that very easy to operate.
So there's someone here who's asking if you do motorized curtains.
Yes, we have started doing motorized, because a lot of homes now are also wanting motorized blinds. So we work with a company called Somfy, who are it's a French company, and they do the motors, and we can definitely do motorized blinds and curtains.
Right. Any more? Anybody else? Right. Thank you so much. I think we've had a wonderful session with Chotti, and it was. I learned so much. I hope everyone, all of you here, enjoyed the session and learned lots from her. Thank you for being here on the Saturday afternoon. I know I disappeared from the beginning. I apologize for that. I was thrown out, I think, by Sandhya, but I would blame her. So, and couldn't get back. But thank you so much. Thank you, Chotti. Thank you for everything. And
thank you. And if anyone wants any blinds or curtains, or even just advice about anything to do with window dressings, please feel free to call me. I'd love to help you all out, and look forward to seeing